Our group's essay is Kristen Collier's Debt Demands a Body, and we are going to respond by talking about something related. We're going to talk about the differences in perceived value of different degrees. So let's listen to this guy.
Reality is these college majors do not prepare you for high-paying jobs.
Okay, yeah, we hear this argument a lot, but it is demonstrably, objectively false. Yes, it's true, STEM graduates definitely make more money than humanities graduates in the first 5 years out of college. That gap closes over time. And STEM grads have a problem sort of built in. Technology driven employment is exposed to obsolescence. That means not only will you need continual training, but it also means that when you're 20 years into your career, your job might be threatened by a new college graduate who knows more about the state of the art technology than you do and will work for your company for maybe half as much as you do. Whereas the humanities are valuable in part because they develop non technical skills that don't expire, like critical thinking, problem solving, analytical reading, and socialization across cultures. This is called long run value, and it's exactly what you look for when hiring managers and executives.
Most people agree that going to college is to get a better, higher-paying job.
I am going to ignore the straw man fallacy and the begging the question fallacy and just say, yeah, most people would agree that the direct economic utility of a degree is that you'll get a higher paying job. But we mean this in comparison to having no degree. And soon we'll realize that that is not this creator's argument.
What people forget is you don't have to go to college to study these things. Like everything you could learn in a classroom about these things is online. Except gender studies, I don't even know what that is.
True, there is a great deal of content online. However, you're not going to have courses curated by professors. You're not going to have face to face access to teaching assistants. You're not going to be in a cohort of your peers. And that joke about gender studies helps drive home the point of why we make lower division undergrads take all those required classes. There's a reason we make English majors take algebra. There's a reason we make future veterinarians read poetry. College is designed to do things to your brain that don't happen elsewhere.
So less people are getting a humanities degree,
It's fewer people, not less.
and this is a great thing. Humanities enrollment has dropped 17% over the last decade. The number of students graduating with a humanities degree dropped 46% at Ohio State and was cut in half at Notre Dame.
Sure, okay, but these data don't reflect the overall value of a humanities degree. They don't even reflect the potential earnings of a graduate holding one of those degrees. These data reflect trends, such as American high schools producing fewer graduates who want to continue studying philosophy and literature, and American universities increasingly being run like for profit organizations that develop resources that are likely to attract revenue and close departments that cost money or break even. Some institutions need to be run for profit, like Apple and Google. Some institutions, like the fire department and the libraries, don't, and universities fall in between.
While this graph shows it's a good thing,
What this graph shows is the median income for college educated workers ages 21 to 24. And yeah, here STEM grads make on average 43 grand a year, while the liberal arts guys are at the bottom at 29 grand. But again, this graph does not show that this gap shrinks over time. In fact, by age 40, the humanities majors' income surpasses the STEM majors on average. Part of this is because there's more upward mobility in those jobs. Part of this is because humanities majors have those soft skills I mentioned, and part of it is because they do go back to get a graduate degree. But again, they're more likely to perceive education as developmental, personal development, and an end in itself, and not necessarily a transaction where the student exchanges time and tuition for professional qualification.
so does this one. Almost every single humanities degree has an over 50% underemployment rate, religion being the exception. These are the percent of people first 5 years out of college who are working a job that typically does not require a bachelor's degree.
So there are a lot of reasons a graduate is underemployed after leaving college. But just looking at all those numbers, those highlighted degrees in the second screenshot are all in the low 50 range, as this creator points out. But if you go and look, so is business, which should be more concerning, considering that's by far the most popular degree in the United States. And so that's a lot more people not working in their field of study. I don't know why we don't bother those people. I assume it's because they don't read, poetry and listen to Phoebe Bridgers. And it makes me think that what this guy wants to say but hasn't said yet is that liberal arts and humanities degrees are not beneficial to society.
I think one of the biggest reasons people get so butthurt when you say a certain college degree is not worth it.
Don't say butthurt. Even if you don't think it's homophobic, a chunk of your audience will, and they'll be alienated by that. So if you want to reach people, say resentful instead of that other word. Something you learn in the humanities.
We as a society has held a college degree at such high regard for such a long period of time. Any college degree, it automatically like puts you at a higher knowledge social level.
Yeah, this is true. Part of the American dream, that cliche, is to attain access to the middle class, or if you're in the middle class, to achieve a higher status or to entrench your position. And we've gotten very classist and narrow minded about assuming that someone with a college degree has a greater social value than people who can't or don't pursue a degree. The problem with this creator starting out his argument this way is that he's going to immediately pivot to argue for some degrees indeed producing more value than others, and therefore justifying that stigma we have against people who don't have college degrees. So he's trying to have it both ways.
When the reality is certain college degrees are much more challenging and difficult and are much more beneficial and useful to society. And it's okay to recognize that.
And there it is. He goes from assailing the overvaluation of diplomas to arguing that certain kinds of diplomas justify that valuation based on societal good. But there's a problem with ranking the societal value of occupations and degrees. Well, yeah, we can argue that doctors and engineers and biochemists are more useful to society than the rest of us. We also have to realize that society is very big and diverse by definition. Not only can we not all be doctors and engineers and biochemists, but society would actually cease to function if everyone only aimed for maximum utility in their degrees and uh, only wanted a maximum return on investment for their tuition dollars.
I've admitted on this page that my degree is worthless, but it shatters these people's reality who've gotten these useless degrees or are trying to get them.
So you can't control the billions or trillions of factors that's going to determine whether your degree is going to be lucrative and useful to you or society. But you can pursue a degree that gives you meaning and satisfaction in the pursuit itself. And I think that if you feel your time is being well spent as a student, you'll probably be less likely to feel like your time at college and your degree was a waste. And if you currently feel like your path is a waste, you're probably going to feel like your degree, once you get it, uh, it was not a good investment of your time and money. So, choose wisely.
Without vetting the contents of each degree.
This is hilarious. No, the department, the university, the state, the regents, everyone has a lot of oversight. All these degrees are vetted. Each department and each program works very hard to make sure that their degree is as good uh, as they can offer it. There's no reason why they wouldn't. Um, yeah, this is funny.
Have labeled said degree to put you at a higher societal status.
This term societal status is fuzzy. It doesn't really mean the same thing to other people. And as we've talked about in class, a lot of different factors go into your perceived social status, whether that's the way you perceive yourself or how other people perceive you. The things that go into that, conventionally, is money, power, attractiveness, intelligence, your access to influence. But as we've seen, this creator isn't really talking about anything except the size of the salary that your employer is going to pay you in your career caliber job in the first 5 years after you graduate. And as I hope I've made the case, there's a lot more to consider than just that. To bring this all back to my group's essay, the Collier essay, Debt Demands a Body, I don't think we'd be having these conversations on what degrees are worth and their value to society if college was still affordable as it used to be. Ironically, or maybe not, I don't know. One of the reasons tuition has gotten so high is because loans and financial aid are so easy to get. That's one of the aspects of American higher education. And the other one is we get to choose what we want to study. If there were quotas and limits on what we could study based on what our government deemed necessary for society, we wouldn't have a system. We would have dystopia.